Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari. We have here with us back again, Mr. Provost. How's it going, Francois?
Thanks, you. Thanks for having me again.
No, anytime. Thanks for coming back on short notice. In case anybody can hear, it's absolute pandemonium in my house. So if you see me touching my microphone throughout, it's because I'm muting my mic. Francois, let's get right to it. Can you give a quick introduction about who you are again, please?
Yeah, so currently, well, the reason why I'm speaking is right now I'm running and acting as president of the Libertarian Party of New Brunswick. I'm 37, father of four. I run a business. I've worked, my whole life, and I'm just trying to make this province a bit better. Essentially, what I'm doing for work is I try to optimize process and modernize um, procedures. So I'm very passionate about applying those skills and those methods in government.
Good stuff. And we have our first audience member, Prairie. Thanks for hopping on. Francois, I want to get back to your province at some point. You said you wanted to help fix your province, but let's start federally. Why, like, Canada is quite far down the welfare state. How would you, like, this isn't something we can do overnight. Like, how would you transition to something more liberty centric?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of making sure that things work at a small scale before scaling them up. Well, that's why currently this is a provincial party. Um, and also, honestly, my focus, because realistically, I don't think I'm going to win this election. Um, but what I really want to open is the conversation with the people and try to have those principles introduced at the municipal level. And once we have one or a couple of municipalities with libertarian principles, and we can make sure that, okay, so when we adopt this methodology, this is the results that we have. And what if we just scale it up to provincial and then eventually federal? That's, I think, would be the most respectful and result based approach to do that. Because you're right, I don't think there's like a one magical solution that we can just decide to almost like forcefully implement boom overnight across the country, and that's gonna make everything better. I tend to be a bit not fearful, but what's the word I'm looking for, hesitant when I hear these kind of I don't know, the claims that this one thing is gonna solve everything. Like, let's see. But yeah, that would be my insight to that.
So you don't believe in a political messiah that will come in and solve all our problems?
Well, I mean, there's definitely that's the power of individuals, right? Because I also believe that one person can make a difference, and sometimes it's just what they can see and how they can communicate in terms of, oh, I think this could solve that. And sometimes just saying that out loud to the right people can absolutely make a difference. But no, not in a messiah like fashion where it's like the almost like the fairy coming in and fixing everything. It's kind of far fetched. Then again, you have guys like Elon, kind of seemingly like if you give them enough, if they have enough resources behind them, seemingly they can do they can do big things. But yeah, no, this is not what I'm banking on.
So sorry, I got distracted there. There's a lot going on here.
No worries.
My question would be: you said you wanted to start locally, so the community level, municipal level.
Yeah.
How would you? Can you give us like a concrete example of something in New Brunswick in your community that you could start with?
Yeah, well, during the pandemic and the lockdowns, I became very worried that some members of my community wouldn't be able to enter grocery stores because this was actually something that was seriously discussed in New Brunswick, where Loblaws or Superstore rather would be able to turn people away based on their vaccination status. So we started to do is we started connecting farmers and producers with clientels directly. So just through little messenger groups, something that almost everybody with just basic understanding of technology can adopt. And basically, we did a direct to consumer bridge where we could just short the grocery store entirely. So that was a successful one. Right now, I'm flirting with the idea of having some kind of a Uber-like method to fix the roads, like in small municipality. Because currently, when you look at I would invite anyone, like if you're like in even like small towns, check or demand the information to check how much it costs to like just fix a pothole. Just send like 2-3 guys in a truck and fix it. It can be quite surprising. Like sometimes it ranges like $450 to $600 per hole when you and I could just go to the store, get the asphalt in a bag, patch it up, send a photo, and get a tax credit in return or something like that. Like why do we? And now if I'm bored and I have nothing to do, to make extra money, I can go out and I can go fix the road and make a bank, instead of doing Netflix because I don't know what to do. Right. So little stuff like this that I'm thinking about. Oh, I lost you. Are you on mute still? Oh,
No,
welcome back.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I remember a story where this guy wanted to build some stairs. The city wanted to build stairs, and they said it would cost like $300,000. So he went and just bought some wood, and he did it for like $75. And then the city came and they spent another 100,000 removing the stairs, and they fined him and they threw him in jail. So
yeah,
there's a whole bureaucracy angle to it too.
And that's the other thing too, and the city was probably like, oh well, then it's their insurance. Well, then have a like if that's gonna be something that's gonna stop your population from participating in their community, like isn't that a problem? Like create your own insurance company. It surely can't be that difficult when you're like a municipality, right? To have some kind of co-op public thing that you guys want to run. I think everybody would be on board by a cheaper insurance plan that is more directly enforced. So anyway, that's. But yeah, you're right. You're right on the money with that stairs concept there. There was another good example, which was Mike Ward, a stand-up comedian in Montreal. He saw the homelessness crisis, and he basically had I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly how many, but like a few tiny homes built, and he wanted to donate them to the city, and they basically turned it down, and he ended up giving them to like another municipality that was like, I don't know what Montreal said no, but we'll take them. And yeah, it's just sometimes, like when you have bureaucracy getting in the way of people actually solving the problem or bringing a good solution, then right there, where I'm going in my mind is like, okay, well, how can people get excited about being involved in the community if you can't be impulsive, if you can't just see something and be like, oh, I want to contribute to this? And it's always no. You need to have we need to have the permission, and you haven't signed the form, and this guy wasn't there to observe you while doing. Anyway, I'm getting lost there, but yeah. Oh, I'm losing you again. Yeah,
sorry.
You're back.
Is it possible to have like a city that functions without city hall? Like, can you privatize bylaws and also the title deed office?
I think eventually when technology gets there, I know that when I speak like this, it's like people freak out in technocracy, and but ultimately these the reason why we have these bureaucratic instances, it's not for nothing. It's a response to a real problem. Is we need some kind of way to communicate and have access to this information in a way that is accessible to everyone. not everyone is familiar with technology. Not everybody has it. Not that it's a good thing. I'm not suggesting either, like, let's go all in tech and have no fallback if something happens, but it's definitely something that could be improved. Don't have a magical answer for you. I think right now, maybe not. Maybe this ought to stay like a group effort where someone, or like a rotating position, but basically someone needs to handle and and have this information. So there is a better way, and I'm testing that stuff out at a small scale. But I think eventually it could go away. Yes.
Looks like you have a fan in the audience, Libertarian Keith.
Yeah. So Keith, thanks for joining. Keith is the party leader, so I sent him the invite. Keith is a lot more well versed when it comes to actual policies and talk about actual implementation. I'm more like of a philosophical. I'm more like of a philosopher, libertarian. So it would be.
I got some questions for your party. Like how big is it, or how old is it? Let's go with that one for now.
I wish I had the exact date there, but we're
roughly.
We're a few months old.
Okay, so it's a new party. There's nothing wrong with that, but so it's new. And how many of you guys are there?
Again, I need to check. We're almost in every writing. I'm not doing a really good job at being on top of this stuff, to be honest. But like I would say more like around 30.
So it's more than, it's not like it's just you and Keith. You guys have like 12 dozen people?
No. Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have an amazing team of people that are equally as passionate as us, behind us, from admin, webmaster programmers, graphic designers. It's we're benefiting from a lot of human contribution and effort there. So great community.
And have you guys, again, madness here. I know you guys are young, but have you guys started door knocking?
Yeah, so Keith specifically has been even giving public speeches. I just recently started. Well, not so much door knocking. I just sit around in like shopping malls and superstore, like where people go, because I live in a small community, right? So if you stick around these areas long enough, you're gonna catch everybody. But yes, no, definitely we have some members who have been door knocking. Yeah.
So, like, what feedback are you getting from the community when you say libertarian? Do they all just like hiss at you and run away, or do they listen?
Well, I'm in a pretty unique position, whereas I'm in the French part of New Brunswick, and to avoid being confused with the liberals, and also when you do a literal French translation of le libertarien, it's like liberate nothing. Not great if you're not familiar with the term, you know where your mind can go. So I actually renamed the party in French the Individual Responsibility Party. So when I say responsabilité individuelle, it kind of states what the party is about. Like it's about let's bring accountability, responsibility back to like a bit more like to the people. So claw that back from the government. And people have a lot of questions, but generally people respond very well to the concept.
The reason I ask is not like I'm not trying to make fun of you, but I was interviewing a former Canadian Alliance candidate, and he said the problem that they had, like they go door to door, and when they explain that they want to bring back liberty and personal responsibility, the people are like, "You're going to take my pension away," and I don't think people understand that there is a world that exists outside of public pensions. Did you come into that problem?
Personally, no. What I would answer to these people is ultimately where I would like the global collective focus to be on is, do we currently have the society that we want to grow old in? And for many, the answer, sadly, is no. I say sadly, but at the same time, it's great to have the awareness, right? I don't think we should have our elders wonder whether or not they're going to end up on the street. I don't think this is acceptable. I don't accept that in my family. If I have a family member who's about to experience homelessness, I make room. I find a solution. I don't think it's far fetched to think that, especially with the amount of land and lumber and resources that we have here, to think like, well, maybe we should just focus on having a house for everyone. Not like in a communist way, but just like it just makes sense, because look at what happens to us in a state of scarcity. Someone doesn't, or high instability. This creates violence. This creates what we interpret as crime and all these things. Like of course, someone who is fighting its own biology, his urge of survival, will break the rules, because nothing else can be stronger than just your natural drive to survive as a person, right? So of course now we're going to start seeing theft. We're going to start seeing all these things just because the person just needs some stability and some safety in their lives. Why can't we just do that to each other? Why can't we just offer that to each other as a societal project? I don't think this is very far-fetched. People who want to go and learn how to build houses, they go to construction school, or whatever group of people who are actively doing this. It could be private enterprise, and just go and practice with the stuff that is just community housing. Like, what else are we gonna do with this space? Like, if we're gonna agree collectively that we're gonna be a community of X amount of thousand people or hundreds of people, because you can decide as a group, are we going to become a big group? What's our goal here? And build accordingly. So yeah.
That actually, I had a question about that. You use the word community a lot. And
Yeah.
I've noticed this with libertarians. Am I right to, when you use community, that's like when we use government, there's overlap there, right? Or am I
Right.
wrong?
Well, I mean, it's ultimately whatever group that you're looking at, it's just a bunch of individual citizens, forming that group. So of course, if I'm going to refer to a group, whether it's government, whether it's private enterprise, whether it's a neighborhood, like it's a community. They're all communities.
It's just that people, when they think libertarian, they think little, very like minuscule to no government.
Right.
But it seems like that's not what you're saying. You're not saying we want to just abolish the government, correct?
I would say the way I perceive it, and it's very important. I know I said that on the first chain, but like my statements, my ideas are my own. It doesn't reflect necessarily the party, but philosophically, I think we do need each other. I think there's no real straying away from that. But the challenge is, how does everyone feel respected at the individual level while we also realize that we need each other for this whole thing that we have right now to function and keep functioning? So do we need an apparatus like the government as it is today to do that? I don't think so. So in that way, I do think that the government structure as it is now absolutely needs a strong, extreme revision, even. But can we completely do away with like all structure and have it just like all individual based at the same time? I don't know. I don't see how that's possible currently. So yeah, we gotta meet somewhere in the middle there.
Do you want to break down what Keith is saying? Only one is voluntary?
Only one is Keith, not sure what he's doing. Oh, okay, yeah. So he just sent me a message. It's too loud where he is.
Yeah, I can relate to
that. Yeah, he works concrete, so it's pretty loud there. Only one is voluntary. How to interpret that? Well, yeah, I don't know. Just as long as it's voluntary, not compulsory. Like whatever the group or the community, whatever I'm referring to, it's basically just individuals who just willingly participate in whatever they engage in. There's no one is forced to do anything. A good
Okay,
example.
go ahead.
Yeah, I would say a good example that we have in New Brunswick actually is our 4x4 and ATV trails. So these roads are actually maintained by the community, by the users, and initially all these trails were just a citizen-led effort because just people wanted roads there, you know. So they just made them. Oh, I want this for myself, so let's make it, right? And they could, and now it's one of the main attraction for tourism out here. We have one of the best kept and most breathtaking ATV and side-by-side trails like in the country. And it's not, like we don't need a government for that. So who's going to build the roads? Well, the people who build the roads will.
There you go. There's a perfect example of who builds the roads.
Yeah, there you go. It's us. We build the roads.
Let's tackle this one. Right now we have a welfare. I'm calling it a welfare state, where like universal basic income, hospital. You're talking about how the community has to respect the individual, because if they're not respected, it leads to crime. How do you replicate the welfare state in a libertarian model where everything's voluntary?
Well, again, this is more like a thought experiment where I'm going with this. So even in a perfect world where I have a magic wand and everybody gets everything they want, I find that people get bored anyway. And there's this need to contribute, this need to mean something. Like there's this call to, like, I need to do something that makes me feel meaningful and that connects me with my community. Everybody seems to have this thing. So even if people would not be coerced into going to work through taxation and all these other fear-based apparatus, I think that eventually we would find people would just want to go and contribute and do something. And then the concept of schools, which is essentially just a place where you can meet a master who's there to come pass down the mastery skills and education. We already have that with the private sector. It's just fully integrated. Like, let's say our old folks' homes right now. There should be a constant flow of young people going in there and learning about how these things are run. What do we do? What's waiting for me when I grow old in my community? Because it looks very different depending on, let's say, the people who are listening to this now, depending on where you are, what happens with your old people in your culture, right, is going to be vastly different from place to place. So where you are now, what does that actually look like? Like, does it make sense? Like, and the skills that needs to be acquired for a person to properly care to someone else, like, could that be something that we like encourage people to go and do? And I think there's ways that we can organize ourselves where the people who want to learn stuff can go and participate where the work actually happens, instead of decentralizing them and putting them in the school, like in the classroom. I like just more integration with where the real work needs to happen, so we can have more people who contribute. That would be one way to go about it, I think.
So decentralized schooling, basically, that'd be like one way to tackle it.
Yeah, because I have the perfect example right in front of my front neighbor is a garage, an auto mechanic, and he was telling me how, and he's retired, so his son took the business back up, and he was telling me how his son grew up with him repairing and doing everything, And now that his son has a garage, he wants to do the same thing with his kids, but they can't because now insurance and all these other things. So now you even have a family who have a family business right there in the, like right next to the house. But if you're caught bringing your kids in there and they learn from you, you know, that's bad. They need to go to school and they need to get accredited and all this. So, like again, I understand that there's a reason why we have all this accreditation system, but it's poorly balanced. Like we went way too far into one direction. Like you mentioned it, like the nanny state. It's extreme. It's much too extreme. Like if we need to dial it back and we need to we just need a lot less government. So again, there's some. Oh, well, there you go, Keith. Keith just said it. So yeah, so just basically reduce, not necessarily eliminate, but definitely reduce and remix and rethink a lot of how we do certain things.
Francois, I'm going to put up something Keith said. I'm just going to go check out my dogs. It sounds like 3 of them might have murdered each other. 1 second, I'll be back.
Yeah, all right, good.
No casualties yet, but the day
Who
is
won?
young. Mom, I think she's squished some of the puppies. So what's Keith saying?
Yeah, so our goal is not to abolish the government. We recognize that some social services are best provided through communal fundings. We just want to claw back about 80% of the government. Yeah. Yes.
It's funny. There's another audience member said almost exactly the same thing. Probably because she can read his comments.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my biggest concern right now. Is like government is just so massive, and I've seen it since 2015 when Trudeau got in. Like the private sector investments are going down, and public sector is just growing and growing.
And what's very insidious about this is the more people you have working for government, the more taxes government will demand, and the more people who want to reduce government. Well, then if you have like, I think I'm not exaggerating, we're close to a third of the population working for the federal government or its subsidies, right? Like we have an insanely high amount of people working for government. So then it's like, okay, so whenever we bring ideas which are, hey, let's reduce taxes, let's reduce government. Well, now for like a whole lot of population, you're basically saying we're going to make sure that you are out of a job, which happens to a lot of people in the private sector. But now you have people that like they will never switch onto that other side. So we need to find the added, I think, challenge that this has here is not only do we need to provide something to fix, let's say, inflation and a lot of spending going unchecked, but also all these government people, all these government workers, what's the plan for them? Like if we're going to cut 80%, like I can't just come to you and be, hey, you're going to lose your job, but it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Like, it's it's not quite convincing enough. So we're gonna need some kind of game plan where we're gonna need to find a way for these people to feel safe and secure to vote for policies which would essentially remove what they're currently doing without the fear that comes with it. And I think that's the huge problem with our society is, like, even if you forget this whole party system and libertarian and all these things, just like currently we live in a society where if there is no coerced, enforced participation, we throw you on the street, essentially. I think if we can fix that at the core, I'll
What?
be
Sorry, what do you mean by coerced enforced participation?
well, because right now, even if you're retired, like you can't just be retired in your home and not pay taxes anymore, or like feel like you contributed enough. Like it never ends. Even in your death, you're taxed. So to me, the way I perceive this, it's basically the message that's being sent is you're just a workhorse here. You know, you're just a workhorse on the farm, and we're gonna work you until we can't. And when you pass away, well, then your children and their children, like it's a never-ending role of you need to participate, or else we kick you off, and then you're basically off to fend for yourself. I don't think that's super healthy. And yeah, I'm basically just saying there has to be a better way, and I don't see it happening with a big bloated government completely removed and disconnected from the participants.
I like your analogy for a workhorse. By the way, if anybody is in the audience, if you write down a question, I can ask Francois. But right now, Francois, going back to the difficulty of going to government employees and saying, "Hey, how about we, cancel your job? Wouldn't that be great?" Do you have any like better message to get them on board?
Well, there's this story which actually inspired me quite a bit, and fortunately, because I don't have a great memory for this kind of stuff, I don't have the guy's name. But if someone asks me, I can go and dig for it. But essentially, what this guy did is just like a YouTuber, and he went to the Amazon, and his whole YouTube channel is just survival forest survival. So his plan was just, as he does, I'm just gonna go in the Amazon like I do other forests. I'm gonna spend a couple of days there and just survive and on stream, right? But he gets there, and it's basically civil war. And it's a group of people which are working for some logging company or some mining company, and people from the village nearby, and it's basically the police force of the village have been tasked to go and remove these people, because what they were tasked to do from the mining company is to dump some kind of chemical in the ground. There's like silver flakes coming back up or something like this, but basically they were poisoning the soil. And what this guy did, which no one in the equation seemed to have thought about, is he just walked up to the people doing the damage and said, because at this point people were like, it was like actual gunfire was being exchanged between the two groups. He asked them like, how much are you guys making like a day? And they answered something like, I think it was maybe like $3 a day or something. And he's like, okay, well, how would you feel if I'm telling you that you can make twice that, and instead of destroying the forest, you just need to know it very well, and the people that want to do what I do, well, they can come to you, and now you're the tour guide of this area of the forest, other people who want to do the camping thing. And they just stopped. They went on their knees and they were crying, and they were like, thank you so much, because like it's first off, it's easier. The job is easier. It's more human. It's more humane. It allows them to reconnect and reintegrate the society that they're fighting against right now. And all these people want to do, when you figure it out, is people just want to provide and know that their family and themselves are going to be okay. Right? So the people that are doing something that we think is incorrect, like, well, first off, don't devalue them, protect them, make sure that they're okay. So we need to find a way to bring some reassurance to these people. But currently it's very difficult, because I find that the people that have maybe a lot of empathy and are thinking about this, well, they don't have resources. They don't have resources to share. Everybody's up to here, bills and stress and all this. So we don't have this kind of, what can I say? Like the social climate and economic reality doesn't quite allow for this. But when I saw this happen, I'm like, I think there's absolutely a way where we can go back and get our police force back and get all these things back for ourselves by going to the actual people who are doing the work and be, hey, like let's say the RCMP, or let's say, well, whatever doesn't exist tomorrow, your paycheck is not coming in tomorrow. What do you actually need? And maybe collectively we'll make sure you have that permanently, and then like now you protect us, like, because there's a disconnect too with the taxes. This is what's very insidious, is the people, especially when you don't have, let's say, local, I'm going to take police for example. If you don't have local police, then you're not directly funding that that public service. So then if you want to have something modified or anything, then it's because it's not direct with something like the RCMP, then it's actually quite difficult to feel like, okay, well, I'm actually contributing to something that I want, to a service that I want. It's more like something that's imposed on you. Yeah, sorry, I'm just noticing government jobs will be replaced privately, and then there will be competition. Yeah, yes, there it is.
Yeah, well, I actually didn't read that, but Keith is making a standard argument where if you privatize things, technically the price should go down. I mean, you can get cartels and they go back up, but then that's not really private. What I was going to say, and I'll leave this with you. The other issue is that the government can print money, and they're almost paying these people above market value. So when you have those, it makes it even harder to convince them to go private.
Yeah, it's true. And yes. I mean, there's no easy one. Well, what we have is because everything is so interconnected in a very complex web. Because right now, what the government doesn't have is the ability to actually create things, like create value. How I see the government is just a very bloated, very expensive project manager. The project manager in the private sector, a project manager looks at all the resources, the human resources, the financial resources. And when we have projects that we want to execute, well, they are the ones organizing the resources and make sure that the project is seen to completion, which is what essentially the government is a project management apparatus for our society. But it's just way too big, it's way too slow, it's way too costly, and now it can be corrupt using tactics as you mentioned. And dare I say, I think it should be perceived as something dangerous.
I guess we're getting a little doom and gloom, so let's go back to sort of the academic part of libertarianism. The concept of rights, like, do you believe in any like inalienable rights, like rights that don't come from the government, they can't be taken away?
Objectively, I would say I have a very tribal way to look at this. Whereas, and again, I'm back with the whole community thing, but what's right and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable is widely different from one culture to another. And it's basically like we decide what the rights are. When you're born into a society, that society kind of dictates what is okay, what is not okay, and it's by following these principles that they got to build what you were born into, so to speak. So you either go with that or you don't. It's up to the individual to participate or not, hopefully.
I might have asked you this last time, but I'm going to ask it again in case there's somebody who didn't watch the last episode. Immigration, like, What are your views on immigration? Should the government be involved in that? When I say the government, the community, like, should people have the right to say you have no right to enter this, cross this imaginary line?
Absolutely. Because people like even even you as a person, do you want to be able to have your own space and tell people you can enter my space or you can't?
Yeah, I mean, my space, like, are we talking like the Amazon forest? I say this 10 square meters is mine kind of thing? Or are you
Well,
talking about my house?
it's you. It's up to you, right? Whatever you perceive as a space that you should have control over, or like if you have this desire, some people they say no, good for them. But the moment you want to have this for yourself, you can't start and wishing that the opposite. You know, like you have to be able to accept the idea that a person or a group of people may just decide that this piece of land belongs to them, and you can either accept or prove them wrong.
Um, no, I don't necessarily agree what I'm going to say. So I don't know who's the devil's advocate here, but
Sure.
uh, um, couldn't you make the argument, Francois? You buy a piece of land that's your property. You can enjoy that property as you wish. If you want to bring somebody from Zanzibar, what right does Payman Ascari have to tell you you cannot do that?
Um, I would say it's really depends on how the and sorry, because just so you can understand, when you ask me these questions, I really try to divide like multiple different scenarios and what if the society that the imaginary society that we're discussing about is set up in this way, in this way, this way. So um I would say it really depends on how that society is set up, because sometimes a place can be set up where people can waltz in and out and it's inconsequential, and sometimes it's like a very fragile ecosystem. um, so I can understand why sometimes people would be very hesitant to open up what they created to external sources, but at the same time, um, I think we should strive to build a strong, resilient, adaptable system. So we should have some kind of balance. Um, but in terms of immigration, I mean, I really see people as okay. Let's say we look at people like robots, like meat. Like I'm a meat robot, right? And my programming, I've been trained to do certain tasks in the big factory that is Canada. And if I keep doing these tasks, then I'm not thrown away by the warehouse manager. So, or right now it would be like the law enforcement or whatever. Like as long as I keep doing the thing that I was, then my usefulness remains, and then I can stay within the community. Kind of. So when we start talking about like, oh, we need to import like other people, like what are they actually bringing? Like what are they gonna do? Like what's the purpose? Like people have a purpose, right? In when we work together, when there's a project, or it's not just like, oh, come and enjoy the sun and well, the little sun that we have actually, um, and our beaches and our mosquitoes where I'm at. It's not that, you know, like you bring them for a reason. What's the reason? Are there like is there better ways than like displacement and also replacement? Like because there's many cultural friction that comes with immigration, almost systematically, because we have a different worldview, we have a different culture, we have a different upbringing, we have different goals. Um, you know, I keep bringing this example, like even with the people that I I'm with every day, and I respect and I love. If we're in a canoe and I paddle to go left and they paddle to go right, they start annoying me real quick. Okay. Um, and it's not because I devalue them as a human being, but it's just like I thought we were in sync as to what the goal is. So when you have a bunch of people with different goals and different ambitions and different worldviews, it does create inefficiency. It does create friction. And while we can gain from having an external perspective, almost like you can see the blind spots that I can't, which is definitely a plus when it comes to these kind of exchanges. Well, is it worth it, and is it the solution? And often I find that we have the way that we've handled immigration, I think, is just gross. Especially when I do take the time to talk to some immigrants, and I've been exposed to some of the. We pay a lot for propaganda, pro Canada propaganda in other countries, and then some of these people, they make insane moves, like big career moves, big family moves. They sell stuff, they got a lot of money, and they come here almost like they're sold the American dream, and they come here and there's no jobs, there's no place for you, there's 6 months of winter. Welcome, figure it out. It's crazy.
Is it just straight up theft? Like, because when you advertise this, you have to pay for advertisement abroad. And are we just stealing their money for the legal services and the house they buy and the food they pay, the taxes on the food?
I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. Everything I could come up with is speculation, and so I don't know. I don't know why we do it. It looks like a Ponzi scheme to me. Like we're catfishing people. I don't know why we do that.
Why do you call it a Ponzi scheme? Can you go into detail?
How? Okay. How do I call this Ponzi scheme? Can I go into detail? Let me marinate that, and I'll get back to you in a few. Maybe if you can shoot
No,
me.
it's fine. I can tell you why I think it's a Ponzi scheme. I think
Yeah.
it's like the Canada Pension Plan, but I think it's like it's just a welfare state. They're spending more money to get votes, and then to be able to pay for that, they have to bring in immigrants, and the immigrants bring money with them because they've probably made some money elsewhere. So they invest the money on the front end, pay for a franchise or something, and they invest it on the back end. They have to buy food here, which means they get taxed here. At the end of the day, every immigrant is a dollar value. That's my Ponzi scheme definition of immigration.
Yeah, that's good. There's definitely like an exploitation theme with that I see, like the lured on promises of jobs. But it's also like it's like a justification also. Like you bring them in, you don't recognize who they like the skills that they have in many times, and sometimes we don't even do a good job at recognizing the skill that of our own. Like for the healthcare system, I keep saying I don't know why we don't just empower pharmacists. It would unclog so much of our healthcare system if I could just walk up to my pharmacist, which is trained, right, to recognize and associate certain medications to certain symptoms, and just saying, hey, I've done some research, which we can do now. Wasn't the case 30, 50 years ago, but now with internet and AI, and like it's so easy now to get a consult, like a quick idea of what could you have, because now we have the ability to compare our medical note and everything across the world, right? So why can't I just walk up to my pharmacist and be, hey, my baby's ears are aching and I probably need some drop, but they're prescription only. Oh yeah, another problem. Boom. But no, we can't do that. You need to go sit for 12 hours in the ER with your baby's crying, expose yourself and your baby to whatever germ and whatever they got going on in this hospital. You need to take someone's spot. You wait. You create some paperwork. It's just insane. It's so insane. Like, we have people that have the training, that could have the responsibility, and we just don't use it. So the fact that we're not even willing to optimize what we already have, but we have this kind of like growth policy where, oh well, we need to bring in people for economic reason, and the to have our economic dependency also. Well, I think, I think I kind of know why I had the Ponzi scheme there. It's something that kind of just came out, but it's really like a Ponzi scheme relies on new investors to pay returns to earlier investors, and it's like the continuous influx of immigrants to sustain that economic growth. It seems kind of the same for me.
Yeah, I think the Canada Pension Plan is the one that's usually used to define a Ponzi scheme. But I like your example with the pharmacy. I didn't think of that, and from now on, I'm going to tell people that I came up with it on my own. So thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take that. Francois, as we're finishing the episode, I want to ask you one thing. There's a lot of trolls out there. You're running for public office, so you're going to have to get used to this. The number one attack that they lodge against libertarianism is, and I noticed this in the comments last time, they're like, it's a pipe dream. It'll never work. It's never worked anywhere. Mm-hmm. What's your response to that?
Well, if I have the chance of having them one-on-one, as I do with you now, is I ask them, how did they go about researching that to come to that conclusion? Because I'm interested. Because when I look, I actually do find some examples of it working, and that's why I think it works. I mean, it wasn't like big, strong libertarianism, but like in Canada in the 90s with Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, they did a lot of deregulation and privatization, and they did some capital gains tax reduction. They opened up trade, and it had some really good effects. We have Argentina right now, who's undergoing a severe overhaul and libertarian principles, and their economy within the year is looking on the up and up there. Switzerland have decentralized governance, and the people seem very happy with the public service. Hong Kong pre-2020 was known for its free market economy, low taxation, minimal intervention, and it was like this huge boom. So when I hear it's never worked anywhere, like, I really want to know, like, how are you researching and where are you looking?
Seems like your buddy is fully in sync with you. So he mentioned Javier Milei,
yeah, there you go,
and Hong Kong. So either you guys are in sync, or you're cheating, and one of you is feeding answers to the other. Dastardly libertarians. Well, no, Francois, thanks for coming on. And I don't know, I had a good time, and especially near the end with that pharmacy thing. I think you really hit on some good points. Do you want to maybe tell people where they can go learn more about you and your party?
Yeah, so I welcome everybody to head over to lpnb.ca to learn more about the platform and to spitball, like, write to us, like the things that you don't think that can work. Send it to us, because maybe we're wrong. This is also something that I like to do, is I haven't seen this model until Argentina. That's why Javier Milei is being brought up by Keith there. At a scale, I'm just very curious. I think it's worth a shot. And let's not be science deniers. Let's go and be curious about what are the results of these policies would be here. I think it would be fantastic. I just need to try it to find out. And whether I'm right or I'm wrong, I think collectively we will all benefit from knowing, like, hey, we tried this and this was the result. I think it's great. So yeah, that would be my statement there.
Well, I have faith in you, Francois. You're a patient man, and I don't know. You seem like you're common sense. So I don't know. You say your chances of winning are low, but I say it's an uphill battle, but you can do it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll get you back at some point.
You as well. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.